means the layers of Spring where we access the database. And then web comes like for the front end part. So I will show you, this is the architecture. Spring can also combine with structs. We have C templates that Spring provides. We can easily connect to the database. We don't have to use those connections and all. Spring will do all the connections for us. This is one advantage of Spring transactions, and like multiple database inserts or queries, we can make it in one transaction. So if one of them fails, all of them will roll back. So we can, all those queries can be one transaction. Those things are provided by Spring. So Spring has a container where we will have beans and text and expression. By expression, we develop an application for multi-language. Something that so Spring uses factory pattern. So if you are not aware of factory pattern, what happens is we give our configuration to the factory, and then they give us the output, and we use that output. So what happens is, when we are building a complex application, so we'll have many classes. So our aim is to dependency of the classes with each other. So with the help of dependency injection, all the classes will be very loosely coupled. So one class will not be dependent on other. I will give you I'll show you an example, and then you will have a better idea by using setter or through the constructor. I hope all of you are aware of it. You need to know a little bit of Java to understand this. Okay, so this is an example. So let's see, we have a class state. Method here, and we have another class country. Now class do is we need to create an instance of, and then we need to yeah, sure, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Yeah. Yes. Please check your connection. There was an disturbance in the audio when you were speaking. Yes.
Okay. So is it clear now? My connection is okay. My Wi-Fi is connected. Is it still breaking?
Yeah, now it's a little bit better.
Okay. I'll repeat this then.
Yeah. This is better.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if everyone is on mute, then it will be clear when I am speaking.
Yeah. We will mute it.
Yeah.
We'll mute the other part.
Okay, and just let me know if my voice breaks. I can repeat that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a class country and we have a class state. So inside country class, we need the state variable. So in typical coding, what we do is we create an instance of the country, like new country in Java, and then we also create an instance of state, new state, and we put the object inside country, and then we instantiate the country class. So what happens is this country is directly dependent on this state in normal coding. Now what Spring can do for us is we just have to create a variable like this. We need to have a setter method that will accept the state object and will point it to this reference will point it to this variable. Now what we need to do in Spring is we will we'll have an XML in Spring configuration where we can have a bean of the country and a bean of the state, and then in the properties we just give the reference like this, just the way I have written it here. What will happen is Spring will understand that the country needs a bean of class state, and Spring will automatically do it. We don't need to do anything. And then throughout the application, we can use this country without instantiating this state. So we are doing a injection here. This dependency is injected to the country. So since we are doing it using the setter, so we are using property. Now similarly, the same thing can be done through constructor. So if we do it through constructor, only the XML configuration changes a little bit. We need to use constructor here. So what happens is in dependency injection will help you is you don't have to instantiate the objects. Spring will take care of all the objects as a bean, and you can just use it throughout the application. So the dependency is reduced from each other. All the beans are independent, and Spring will take care of everything. So I will show you. This is how it works actually. This is our, for example, the country class, right? This is our POJO objects, and the XMLs, right? These are our configurations. Now we supply both these things to Spring. Spring will create the beans and give us the objects, and we need to just use those objects throughout our application. That is how Spring actually works. Okay, do you guys have any question on Spring? Because I will not go too much detail on Spring because it is just 1 hour session. I will just show you a demo app. But till now, does anybody have any question? You can ask me.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
What is the specialty of this Spring and why it is needed in the industry?
Okay, so in if, for example, if you are building a web application, right? You need to have a JSP, you need to have model, view, control, all these parts you need to have. So Spring provides these things in a very simple way. You don't need to code too much. You will have a JSP, and Spring will, and you will have a controller in Spring. JSP can directly pass values to the controller. But in normal, without Spring, if you want to do it, you have to create servlets. You have to create these Java classes. It is very complicated. So I think Spring helps in that way. Spring helps. Okay, the second thing is when you are connected to the database. In normal Java classes, we have to create JDBC connection, close connection. There are a lot of coding here. But in Spring, we have predefined templates like JDBC template. It's just an example. JDBC template is one of the way we can do it. We can just use this template and we just pass the database URL and the password, and then it does the connection, closing the connection. Everything is handled by Spring. So database part also is become very simple. Plus we have this. Just now I said about this dependency injection, right? This is one of the very important feature. This helps all the classes to be loosely coupled. So maintaining the application and then dependency is reduced between each other. This is one point. And then again, if you're creating an application, you need to have test cases like JUnit test cases. So Spring also supports JUnit test cases. So inside the same application using Spring, you can do all these things together. So with Spring, you can create a complete application. So that is why I think Spring is one of the most famous frameworks in today's date.
So the web application development is made semi-automated using the Spring.
Yeah, Spring will do most of the things for you. You just have to give the things that like Java classes you have to create, and you have to give instruction to Spring what to do, what not to do, and Spring will create everything for you. It will do most of the things for you. Yeah, it helps your coding make simple and easy. It helps the developer actually to make things simple.
I got it.
Yeah. So in general, if you are creating a servlet and then all these things and you're creating an application, right, it will take you maybe a lot of hours. But using an Spring, you can create a simple application very very quickly.
Yeah, that is right.
Okay. Anyone has to ask anything else?
You can see that in the chat box, because the others are muted. The people raise questions, they can raise their hand, or you can put your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, they can put their questions. Okay, so I will start with the demo app then. Okay. Okay, so for the demo, I'm using Eclipse. So Eclipse is an IDE where we do our codings. So with Eclipse, we can create projects and we can develop applications with the help of this tool. This is what I use for development. So if you can Google about Eclipse and you will know what Eclipse is. So it is just a tool that we use for developing applications. So for our application, we will use Maven. So if you don't know what Maven is a something that helps you build the application. For example, you want to create an application and you need to use a framework. So you need to use all the jar files for that framework. You have to manually normally download it and add it to your build path in your project. Now, if you're using Maven, you just have to define it in the pom.xml and your Maven will automatically download all your jars and it will add it to your project's build path. So it makes everything simple. So let me start. So what we'll do is you can see my screen, right, Chandran sir?
Yeah, I can able to see your screen.
Okay, okay. So I will start. So okay, so to start, first we will go to new, and then okay, let's type Maven here. Okay, so we'll create a Maven project. Next, and I go next. Now, since we are creating an web application, we just type web here, and we use this architect web. We click on next. Okay, now I need to give the project name. So I will just give you the name first app. Okay, first app Spring. Okay, and one more thing, this app that I'm creating is using Spring Boot. So this is Spring Boot makes things even simpler than normal Spring. Okay, let's create an application with Spring Boot. So this is the application name, and then we give on finish. And then we have created a project here, and we have the whole project is almost empty now. So we need to do our coding here. So first we will go to this pom.xml. Right now this pom.xml is empty. We just have application name and everything. So in order to use Spring, we need to add the dependencies. We already have the dependency of JUnit here. We need to add dependencies for Spring Boot so that we can use Spring Boot. So I already have an XML here. I will just copy the Spring Boot dependencies. So you can see here, this is the Spring Boot parent that we need, and these are all the dependencies that we need for Spring. So I will just copy them instead of typing just to save time. Okay. Don't need this. Okay, I have copied the parent here. And then again, we have these properties. This is the Java version we are going to use. So I will copy that as well. Okay, and then we have all these dependencies: Spring Boot, Starter, Web, Starter, Tomcat. We need all these. So we have JPA. We don't need this now, but we will use this later. So first, let me copy all this. Okay. So inside dependencies, we just paste it here. And since we are not going to use JPA right now, so we will just remove this dependency. And we have right now we have all the dependency for Spring Boot. So what we do is we'll close this for now. So our is the dependencies in POM. Now what we do is we do right click and then go Maven and then update project. What it will do is it will download all your dependencies and add it to your bus. So all these dependencies that we added, these are all the actually jar files that will be downloaded and it will be added to your build path. updating Maven, it's going on. Let's wait. Okay. So when we go to libraries and we go to Maven dependencies, we can see all these jars are added to our project now because we have added this in pom.xml. All these jars will be needed for Spring Boot. Okay, so right now, so we have added our dependencies. Now inside source main, let's create a folder. Let's say Java. Okay, and then let's create a class here. Okay, so I'll give the package name com.pranjal.main, and then I'll give the class name first app main. This will be our main class. It will have this public static void main, and we'll do a finish. And then this is our main class. So in Spring Boot, we need a main class to run the application. Now we will just give annotations like Spring Boot application, and then here we write Spring application dot run, and then we give our class name here dot class. So what we just did is we just told Spring Boot that this is our main class, and this is when we need to run this application. Starting from here, this is the starting point of the application. So then we can try and build this application first. Let's see if it builds. We do a run as Maven build. Since it's a Maven project, we can do a Maven build. We just need to give commands in package install and then apply and then run. So our project will build. Okay, so you can see, okay, the build failed. Okay, I think I missed something from the pom.xml for the build. So let me copy that first. So for build, we need all this because since it's a Spring Boot application, we need to add this build plugin. For let me paste it here and let's build it again. Okay, it will fail again. Just a second, I'm not sure why the build is failing again. Okay, reduce these dependencies. What did I miss? Okay, let's try again. Okay, I think I did something in the build command. It was just a typo. Sorry. Clean package install. Okay, let's run it again. So you can see the build is successful now. So now we can actually create a properties file. So every Spring Boot application will need a properties file where we'll specify all the properties that are needed. So we just create new others, say file, next. and application dot properties. Okay, I'm going to finish it. So we have an application properties file now. Okay, now let me copy some stuff. Okay, we have an application properties file. So here we can define on which server port our application will run. So let's make it 8081 for now. Okay, and then we build it again. Or just I'll just do project build automatically. It's on, so we don't need to build it again. And we just try to run the application first. Let's see if it starts. So our application has just started on the port 8081. So we can go to our browser and then just check local host, and our port is 80. So right now we are getting an error message that there is no no web page or something like that, right? No message available, because we have not created any message or any web page till now. But our application has just started, and it is listening on this port 8081. So this is the first step. Let me minimize this. Stop sharing this. I think I better share my whole desktop. I'm not so sure. Share the desktop. Okay, I'll share my screen. Screen one. Okay, and then can you see the browser now?
Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So when I say this, so what we just did is we just created an application, and then we started on port 8081. So now we just go to the browser and type localhost 8081, and we get this page. So this means that our application is running, but since we don't have any web page, so we are getting this page. Let's configure the web page now. So let's stop this application right now, and so for the for having a web application, first we need a controller. So let's create a controller first. Controller. So let's name this controller the package. Controller, and then first app controller. Okay. So I just created a class with the name first app controller. So now what I need to do is I need to tell Spring that this is my controller class. So this is my controller class. So now Spring will know this is my controller class. Now, before that, we need to do one more thing. Let me copy and I'll explain to you what that is. Okay. So we need to use this line, and then com.pranjal.controller. So okay, put a curly braces here. Okay, so what we did is scan this package. So when Spring scans this package, so it will directly go to controller package. It will look for these annotations. So it will find this annotation, and Spring will know that this is a controller class, and it will create a bean of this controller class. So we just need to tell Spring what to do, and Spring does it for us. So in our main class, what we did is we just told Spring to scan this package. Now need to have mapping. So mapping means whatever URL you type in, that will be mapped to this controller. At the rate request, the request mapping, and then we need to give the value. Like for now, we just give value as slash, and then we create a method, public, let's say string, let's say home, and say and then return. Okay, so we need to have quotes here. Okay, so import this. So when we type a slash in the URL localhost 8081 and slash, the request will come to this controller. The request will actually come here, and then we will return home. Now in application properties, we need to specify where our JSP file should be. So we need to copy this line in the properties file, and then so here we have WebINF and JSP. So let's go to the WebINF folder. So we create a folder here, JSP, and we create JSP file. Okay, let's name it home.jsp. Home.jsp. Okay, and then we finish it, and then I give an h1 and then say welcome to home. Okay, so we have a JSP now, home.jsp. We have a controller which will return our home.jsp when we do slash. So let's give a sys out here. Let's say inside home controller. So this we will know that our request reached here. So now let's try to start this application, and I hope it starts. Okay, the application started. Now let's go to this URL. You see, when we hit this URL with slash, it came to our JSP file, welcome to home. So it actually prints here inside home controller. This means when we hit a request, it came to this controller, and then it returned this JSP. So without Spring, achieving this is actually a very difficult task. But with Spring, we just have to give a few annotations and configurations, and we were able to achieve this. So now we can actually change it here, home/home, and then we stop the application. We start the application again. Okay, so we go to the browser. We hit this because there is nothing, because we changed the URL. So we need to do /home. So when we do a /home, we go to this URL. Okay, so right now what we just did is we created a JSP, created a controller, and to the URL we are navigating to the JSP. That is the first step. Now what we can do is we can create another, we can try to navigate to this page. So let's call this welcome. Let's call this welcome. Okay, welcome, and then we do what, and from our controller we can even pass values to the JSP. I will just show you. Model.add model.attribute, and then we say name, and then we give a name here. Let's give my name, and it has to be inside double quotes. Okay. So right now, when we go to the welcome, we will pass this value, this name with this value. Now let's go to here and okay, welcome. Now we create another JSP with the name welcome. JSP file. Let's call it welcome. Okay, and then finish it, and then I say given each one, and then welcome. What I do is I give a dollar sign and then curly braces and name. So what I just did is, okay, I don't know why this error is here. Okay, so we send this attribute name. This is a variable and this is the value. So when we use this name here, what should happen is this name should be replaced by the value Pranjal. Let's also change something in here. Let's do this. Let's create an anchor tag and we do an href and we do slash welcome. So what will now happen is when we do a slash welcome, it will go to this controller. It will add this. I'll also make this welcome so that you can know in here. So we add this variable here with this value and we send to the welcome.jsp. So now it will open welcome.jsp and will show welcome and that whatever name we set in the backend. So let's stop this application again and then we run it again. Okay, application started. Now let's go to home.jsp. Okay, I did that small mistake here. When we give an welcome, I just need to give a name here, otherwise we won't be able to see the anchor tag. So let's stop it again. Let's start this again. Okay, the application started. Now let's go to home. So you can see there is a welcome link here. Now once I click on the welcome link, okay, I think I typed the, sorry for the typo. Welcome. Okay, let's start it again. Okay, so a lot of typos today. Okay. So welcome, and then we click on welcome, it goes to welcome and it shows welcome Pranjal. But you see in the JSP, I have not mentioned my name anywhere. It's just name. And from the backend, what we are doing is we are sending this name with this value. So in the JSP, we are getting the value from the backend. This is also one of the feature that Spring provides. We can easily send data from our backend to the JSPs. And similarly, we can send data from JSPs to the controllers very easily. But with traditional coding, this achieving these tasks are very complicated. It is not that simple. Okay, so what we just did is we have created two web pages and we are navigating through the web pages and we are also passing values from the backend to the front end. This is what we have achieved now. Okay, so the next thing is database. So first, for the database, we need to have. So okay, I'll show you. I already have a database here in my local system. It's a MariaDB. It's on running on port 3308. Let's open this database. Okay. So we have a schema here, demo, and it's empty. Demo and the schema is empty. So let's use this demo schema. So what we will do is first we need to go to pom.xml and here we would need to add the dependency for the database. So let's go to the other pom xml and let's copy the dependencies. So what we do is we copy this JPA dependency first. Where is that one? Okay, let's copy the JPA dependency here, and then I need to have this JDBC client and the connector for the SQL. So I need all these dependencies for the connection to the database. So I will add this as well in my pom.xml. So once I have added this, I will just do a right click and Maven and then update project. So what now Maven will do is Maven will download all these jars for me so that I can use them in my project. So the jars are getting downloaded and the project is getting built. Okay. Again, the second thing is we need to add the properties for our database. So I already have these properties here. I'll just copy it in our application. So I already made this so that we can save a little bit of time instead of typing everything. So as I showed you, our database is running on port number 3308. It's MariaDB. This is a driver used for MariaDB. And let's not do a create. Let's not do an update and make a create here. And then this is the dialect we will be using for JPA. Okay. Now the properties file is done. We have the controller. We don't need the JSPs for now. We don't need Maven. Now what we need to do is we need to create an entity class that will be like the table in the database, the entity class. So let's create a class here. Let's name it entity class before the database changes. Okay, I'll show you the entity. Let's create this employee. Let's create an employee table. Spelling mistake. Employee. Okay. So we create an employee class, and this will be our entity class. So we need to give here @entity annotation for JPA, and we need to define the fields. So just to save time, I already have this employee. I'll just quickly copy this, and we can. Okay. Now we have this employee entity. So I will explain to you. Or this will be our employee table in our database. When we do add entity, this means this class resembles the table in our database. Now in here we have an ID, employee ID. So this will be auto-generated. So there are a lot of different type of strategies that we can use in Spring. So right now I'm just using a very simple strategy without any conditions. And then we have first name and last name. This table will have three fields: employee ID, first name, and last name. So first name is a string, and length will be 25. Just these are some values that we just need to give. Okay. Now we have created the employee entity class. Now what we need to do is we need to create a repository class, which will actually connect to the database. Okay. So let's go to Java. Okay, let's create a class here. Okay, let's name it repository, and let's say first app repository repo. Okay, let's finish this. So this sorry. So we have an interface with, and then what we need to do is it extends, and we can use JPA repository. So okay, we have JPA repository. Now we have two parameters here. This is one class that they need, and this is actually will have employee as the class and ID will be of long. So we just give it here, and our repository class is ready. Now we have a repository class, we have an entity class. Now we need to configure it in our application. We just need to tell Spring that this is our entity class, this is our JP class. So what we need to do is we need to enable JPA repositories, and then similarly just like that we have to tell Spring the package that we have our repositories. So it is repo, right? Repo. Okay, so we tell Spring that this is our JPA repositories are enabled and it's in this package. Similarly, we need to also tell where our entities are. We do an entity scan and we do base packages similar to this, and then we give the package name. So our package name for entity class is NTT. Okay. So double all right. So what we did just now is we just enable JPA in our application, and we told Spring that this is the package for our JPA repositories. Then we have an entity in our project, and this is the package for our entity. These are two things that we did. Now we have a controller here. Now from the controller we will not directly go to the repository. Before that we will create a service class. Okay, first app service. Okay, so we have this service class here. So this is a service class. We can tell Spring that this is a service class that will do all the actual business logic will be there in the service class. So normally in our development, what we do is we have separated all these classes, all these modules. So the controller will not interact with the repository directly. That is the normal coding standards that we follow. So okay, my system. Okay, can you all still hear me? Hello?
Yes, Pranjal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I thought I got disconnected or something because I did not see the screen. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, I'll continue then. Yeah. Okay. So we just created a service class. With this annotation, we just told Spring that this is our service class. And here we will write all the business logics. So since we have a service class here, we need to go to our main, and then we need to say, we need to Spring that we need to scan this service package as well. So what we do is we just give a comma here. We just okay, let's copy this. Okay, and then we do service. So now what will happen is Spring will know that we need to scan the service package as well. So Spring will scan the service package and it will create a bean of this service class. Now let's create a method here. Public void save. And then let's have some two values here, string first name, comma, string last name. Okay. Okay, and then okay. Now what we do here is we have a method already here, save. Now we go to our controller. So what we will do is when we go to this welcome, from here we can call our service class. So I'll just copy it here. Okay. So now I'll show you how dependency injection works actually. Service and then say service. Now at the rate. Okay. So you see here, I have used a notation called auto wiring, and this is my service class that I want to use. Now in normal Java, what we would normally do is we would do something like this: service class service equal to new first app service, right? something like this. This is normal what we do it in Java, and then we'll say service dot save, and we'll have to give some first name, last name. Say Pranjal, and then let's say test one. Okay, so in normal Java we create an instance like this, and then we call the method. But when we are using Spring, so since we have annotated with Spring annotations like @service, Spring will create this class, this bean. So we don't need to instantiate this bean every time. We don't need to use this new service, new operator. We just remove it here, and what we do is we just create a reference of this and just use the annotation auto-wired. So what Spring will do is Spring will actually inject the object here, and we can directly use it here. We don't need to use this new operator. We don't create a new object every time. Spring has the object already. He'll just give it to us. Use it. So what we call it service.sys. So let's put a sys out here. Sometime back we also created a repository. So let's use this repository here. So where is our service? Yes. So we have this repository. We just import it, and we just import the repository. This is just normal Java. We just import the repository, and then we just give a name to it. And then similarly, like we did for the service, we did an auto-wired annotation here. What will happen is Spring will create an instance of this repository, and it will inject here. And you can use this repository just like you use this reference just like an object. So what you do is repository.save, and now we need to, for this save method, we need to pass entity, the employee object. Okay. Before that, I will show you the repository. In the repository, we do not have any methods. But here, when we are doing, we have this save method. This is what Spring does. Spring API repository will have its own inbuilt methods. We don't have to write any kind of coding to save these values in the database. We can directly use their methods. We don't have to do anything. So what we'll now do is employee emp equal to new employee, and then emp dot set first name, and emp dot set last name. Okay, and then let's make it small. Okay, then we pass the emp object here, and then we save the file. Okay, now your question would be why am I not using auto-wired here, and why am I creating an instance here? This is because this object will be only inside this method. We don't need this object outside. We don't need to auto-wire or inject it from outside. We can directly create an instance, save it here. So we just did a save here, and then let me recheck if everything is okay. We have the repository, we have the service, we have the controller. What we will do now is from the controller, I will pass these values Pranjal and test1 to the service. In the service, we will have these values Pranjal and test1. So in the employee object, we will set the values Pranjal and test1, and then in the repository, we will save these values. Ideally, what should happen is this code should actually create a table in the database. Since we have given create here in the properties file, it should create a table in the database, and it should insert these two values, Pranjal, test1. These two values should be inserted in the database. Now let's start the application and let's see if it really works. We did a lot of coding, so let's build the application first. Let's wait for it to build. Okay, so the build was successful. Now let's start the application. Okay, we have started. The application has just started. Now let's refresh this. And you see, as soon as the application started, this employee table is created. So from our code itself, we created a table with with using JPA. Now we have in this table we have employee ID, first name and last name. As soon as we started the application, this employee table got created. This got created only because we have added here create. So now what we do is we go to our browser. So let's go to home. Oh, okay, home. Now, as soon as we click on welcome, what will happen is we will come to this URL and it will call this save method and it will save values in the database. So let's click on this save and it will welcome Pranjal. And now, ideally, what we should see is we should see values in our table now. So let's see if we have any values in the table. You see, so we had these values in our controllers, Pranjal and test1, and these values were inserted in the database. And for the database insertion, we did not do anything. We just created a repository. We just did a little bit of configuration, and that's it. And we are able to save data values in our database. It is so simple. In normal, without Spring, when we want to do is we have to create a JDBC connection. We have to write around 100 lines of coding to just achieve this functionality. But with Spring, we did not have to do anything. We just have to call this save method, create this interface repository, and then we were able to do it. And also we needed a few configurations here. We just have to tell Spring which packages our entity class, our repository class are, and that's it. And we were able to save values in our database. Now let's move one step ahead and let's go to our web page. So this is home.web page. So in our home.web page, we can actually create a form action and then let's call it save, and then method will not be get, it will be post. Okay, so we have just created a form and then let's put something like input and then type text, text placeholder, say first name, and then the name is first name. Let's use first name. Okay, similarly I will use another text field, create another text field, and let's say this is last name and let's call it last name. Okay, now let's create another input, input, and then let's make it type equal to submit, and then let's give the value equal to save. So we just created a form where we have first name, last name, and we have this save method, save button. Okay, now once we have this, now when we click on this save, it will go to this URL save. So let's make it /save. So in our controller, we need to have a mapping for this save, like we have for welcome. Like we have for welcome and home, we need to have a method for save. So let's just copy it here. Okay, so let's make it save. And now, since we are using post method, okay, value, and then just a second. Okay, we have this controller. I've already created a controller like this, and then we give method request method post. Okay, it's a comma here. Okay, method is post. Now model and @request param, and we just define a map here that will have all the request params. String, 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 and then request. Okay, so this now when we given here post and save here, what will happen is as soon as we click on this save button, it will go to this URL save and post, and it will hit this controller, this request mapping. Now we have the request here. Now since in home we have these two fields, first name and last name, we want these values in our controller. So what we'll do is request, and then we say request.get, and then we use this names, first name. So I will just give double quote here and then first name. So this will create your first name. Let's give it a variable string first name, and then similarly we can do it for the last name. Oh, I think we exceeded the time a little bit. Last name. Okay, so then we what we do is we pass this first name and last name instead of Pranjal and test. We pass this first name, last name that we are sending it from the front end. Okay, and it will return welcome, and inside save controller, and then let's go to this welcome. Let's make it message, and then data saved for, and then let's give the first name here. Okay, so this is the message we will send it to our welcome page. Let's go to the welcome page. Let's go to this welcome page, and then let's say message. We just give message here, we don't need anything else. Okay, so I think we are done with all this stuff. So we have this text fields, we have this submit button, we have this controller. This controller will call same service, same method. We'll just pass the methods that comes from the front end. Let's test this now. So before that, let's build this application once. Now we will start this application. Okay, let's stop it. I just missed one small part. So we already had a create here, and we don't need to create a new table again. So we just do an update here. So what this will do is this will not create a new table every time. So let's start the application now. Okay, so the application just started. Now let's go to home. So you can see I just gave this text box and the save button. Let's say what name should I give? I already give my name. So let's say first name, and then let's say it is last name. Okay, and then when I click on save, what it should do is it should save the values to the database after it goes to the controller. So let's click on save here, and data saved for first name. So this is the name that we gave in our first text box, and this data was saved for this first name. Now we can go to our controller and see save method was called inside save method. Now we go to our database and we will just do a query, and you can see first name and last name were saved. So what we just did is we created an application where we can put values in our UI, and then we call the method, and then it saves values in our database. We can try this again. 8081, and let's call it test first, and then test last, and then we save it again. You see, when I say test first, so it gives the message data saved for test first. Now we go to our database. We just go to this table. We do a query here, and you can see data was saved for test first and test last. So this is how we created an application using Spring Boot. Within just 1 hour, we created an application, and we have a UI, and we have a service class, we have a backend, and we have a database. And this is just it is very simple. And this with Spring Boot, you can see, right, with Spring Boot things become so simple. We don't have to do any extra coding. Everything is done by Spring. We just have to tell Spring what to do, and they do it for us. So this is it. Actually, this is the application that we just created, and it is working. So okay, so I'm done here. Do you guys have any question? You can go ahead.
Thank you, Pranjal, for excellent within a short period. I'm Dr. Yeah. You showed within the 1 hour you created a web page, database, connected, and shown an excellent demo.
Yeah.
So within the short period that the students can able to know how we can create this web page and connect with the database.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that shows that how this tool is very fast in creating applications.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Any participants, if you want to raise any questions, you can put in the chat box. Our students, particularly, who are doing some Java courses outside, they want to take proposition in that area. You are ready. You can interact with your senior, get his experience and knowledge. So you can share your email ID.
Yeah.
So that any questions or queries comes, you can answer in offline mode.
I will just ping my email ID to all in the chat box, and I can also share this project that we just created to you, sir, and you can share it with them whenever you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my email ID. I send it in the chat, so you guys can ask me if you need any clarifications.
Students, you can make use of his expertise, particularly the final year students who opt to get placements in this area. He can guide you as he is your senior. There's a lot of experience. He is got based from AVIT in Infosys and working for Infosys for 7 years. Now he is in Fiserv in Germany, having a lot of experience in the field of Java application development. He has a lot of contacts. You can make use of him. He is ready to help you also. Leelavati madam, can you share your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, Pranjal, we are expecting you should visit our campus.
Yeah, sure. When this corona thing goes away, I will come once.
Yeah, you have to come. Yeah,
Sam, can you take Rajaprakash sir into the panel? We let him do some contact with Pranjal as he is the alumni coordinator. Yeah, please.
In your busy schedule, you have spent some time for us. So really, we want to thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, ma'am. Anytime.
Yeah.
So everything was a bit clear, right? Whatever I explained, it was okay, right, ma'am?
Yeah, they definitely everyone will got an initial idea about that. That if they let them having any doubt, let them mail you. You guide them.
Yeah. I can send this project actually. They can go to the code and then have a look.
Yeah, definitely I will circulate it to the students.
Yes.
Professor Muthuselvan is the person who is handling Java classes for our students. I request Sam to put him in the panel so that he also interact with our alumni. Muchelvan, Professor Muchelvan is there? Okay. Professor Radhikadas is there? Okay, you are not able to add him. Okay, Radhikadas sir is not there. Right. Okay, if there is no discussion, we can close it as there was other meeting from 6 to 7. So, for your information, in AVIT we have been conducting faculty development programs and other things by various departments. Nearly 60 plus programs have been conducted in this lockdown period.
Okay.
Interaction with the placement officer, Mr. Professor, and principal and campus director giving us full support to conduct the program in various aspects of promoting technologies.
Okay.
He is sharing the program schedule, next program schedule. So, I request the participants can also participate in these events, which is scheduled on 6 o'clock today. So tomorrow session link I will be sending through email to the participants, or I will share you now so that you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah, Pranjal, again I welcome you to our college for a live session so that your juniors can have a live interacting session with you for their future career. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, definitely you should come to AVIT campus. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pranjal.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
I'm sharing the next session details. It is on Sunday, 3 to 4 p.m. Thank you, Pranjal, for spending your valuable time with us, sharing your experience, with us. And
Really, yeah, it is very happy to see our student. That is
a long time, nearly 7 to 8 years.
After 7 to 8 years, yeah.
Pranjal, I'm seeing you once again, and nobody would have time in AVIT, and hope our students will get motivated by seeing you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you, Pranjal.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.